So good morning. Hi, Nancy.
Good morning, Delinda. Happy Tuesday.
It is just so fun to be with you again. It's just such a pleasure. And we were looking, actually, you mentioned it yesterday when we were doing some notes back and forth. We will have a Friday, oh my goodness, a
A
fifth
fifth.
Tuesday coming up in September. So those of you who like to see us with our panel of ladies, and we're going to talk about is today the good old days for our future? It's kind of an interesting little topic there about the good old days. But today we are talking about being parents and how do we navigate through our kids being grown? I mean, I don't know about you, Nancy, but it's a shock to me that how can my kids be as old as they are when I think I'm still young? I mean, come on, really?
I know, and trying to remember what it was like at their age when we were there, and just going, I think I'm a lot smarter now.
But we always hope so, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Surely we've learned a few things along the way, right? And I think I don't know when I had the aha moment of, oh yeah, my kids are grown. I guess I should let go a little bit. So, kind of the questions like, okay, so do we still get a vote in their life? Do we get to give advice? Should we speak up? Should we step back, or should we just zip it and let them go? Or, what do you think about all that?
Well, that's what life is all about, and we go with the flow. And as things come up in their lives, and we can sort of see it, and from experience, or we are using sort of the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that we have because we've gleaned it. You and I both have the hairs to prove it, and so we're still here. But anyways, but I think when we start seeing things in their lives and the challenges that they're going through, and we're never ever going to stop praying for them, Delinda. But I
No,
think
absolutely.
for myself too is I have become more permission based. So if I see something going on, or they've shared something, I'll ask them, say, may I share some thoughts, or may I share, something with you? And then you and I both know when we're or talking with them, just like you said, we were talking about, do you want me to just listen, or do you want me to share? You know, and just asking that question. And then they say, I just need you to listen. Then you and I both know that's when the zipper comes out. And
Yeah.
so, and just, but I think one of the things for myself too that I have really, it's been a gift from the Lord, is when my grown children ask me to pray for them. And,
Oh,
and I,
wow.
I know, and to pray about something. And so, and I'm always going to, but several years ago, I made a remark and I said, well, you can pray about it also.
Yeah.
But the thing that when they ask for that, that means they believe in prayer. Whether they are doing their praying and believing and trusting God, that's their relationship with the Lord. But I think, when we talk about, raising children, we have them like for what, 18, 20 years. Um, and, we're doing the best that we can to put into them, so in all those things that are going to help equip them. But you and I both know we can look back and we keep getting equipped. And so for the new challenges that we have, and, in this day and time, I think these young people, they're very smart, they're wise, but you and I can see that some of them love tradition. They love those things that are being passed down from past generations. They value it. So when they can value, where we have been and the sacrifices that we have done, and I don't know about you, but do you feel like sometimes it didn't feel like a sacrifice? We were just doing what we thought was best.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
I
so,
think that's really true. Because you're doing it because you love, you love them, you want to, you get upset with them sometimes and all that, and but it's just part of what we do as a parent, which is exactly how God does with us.
absolutely. And I know you've got some beautiful grandchildren, and one of the things that you and I have seen sometimes too are some things how they're raising, their children. And that's when, again, I get to zip it because I'll remind myself I had my chance to raise them and the privilege and the honor to raise them. And they need to have that same privilege and honor to raise their children, even though we think they may not be doing a good job or might be making a mistake or whatever. And
They
so,
could do it a little differently. I mean, yeah, that is a challenge. But I remember my mother saying to me, well, about my parenting. I know she didn't agree with my parenting, and I didn't agree with hers, which is why I was doing my kids a little different. And I know they both of mine are doing the same thing. So we kind of pick out the things we like, right? And then we don't do the things we didn't like about them, whatever, and how we were raised. And it's always a little shuffle game, kind of, and balancing. I think it's really is. And I loved your first comment because that is probably, if I had one piece of advice, it would be the same thing you said at the very opening of the show, is that now I have really learned to ask for permission. I mean, can I share this with you? Or, uh, and that the question which I ask a lot is, so are you just you want me to listen, or are you asking me to contribute or to share my thoughts? And I get both answers, sometimes yes or no. My daughter is so funny. I mean, those of you who've been with me a long time, and I talk a lot about Alicia, and she is okay with it, just so y'all know. We had horrible years together. I mean, times when honestly, it was only by the grace of God, truly. I mean, it just was so hard. She's now recovering addict of 15 years. So, y'all, that gives you a little idea of some of the things that went on. But now she is so amazing and she is such an open book. And I'll say, so honey, can I say something? Well, of course, mom, you can say anything about anything. I said, that's such a shock. I still am in shock that she wants my opinion, after hard years. So those of you who may be in the trenches of the really hard stuff, believe me, there is light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, it's that love them no matter. And I think, Nancy, that is the one thing. If, as a parent, loving your children no matter what they do, it doesn't mean we have to condone it or say it's okay or any of that, but we have to love them anyway. I mean, and that, again, we get that from the Lord. That's the only way we can love them that way.
absolutely. And we're going to be their biggest cheerleader. I mean, um, and just like you said, yes, sometimes they make mistakes or bad choices or whatever. We don't agree with it. And they're having to live out the consequences, but you still love them and cheer them on and pray for them. And what another beautiful gift is when we see answers to prayer. It's just like, yay, Lord. And then there's sometimes for myself, I'm going, well, did you doubt it? did you did you think he wouldn't come through? Did you think, it wouldn't happen? But sometimes it doesn't happen the way I thought it should or the way, I had prayed for it.
Yeah.
But when God works in their lives, and how we go, how big is your God? How able and how capable is he? And I love just even looking at all the multitudes of people that he's created, and he loves each one of us so
Yeah.
much and cares so much for us, Delinda. And why sometimes do I doubt that he is not going to love my children and take as good a care of them as he has of me?
Mhm. Absolutely. And it is always good to remember that. And I love what you said about, he answers the prayers. And then I ask myself, why am I surprised? I mean, I pray for it, I believe it, I trust it. And then when he does, it's like, oh, Lord, you're so good. And it's like, well, duh, why did you doubt it or did you? But it's just an odd thing about that. Whenever he does answers those very obvious ones, he's answering our prayers all the time, and we know that. But when it's something we've really prayed, particularly a long time for, and for our children, it is just such a blessing that he allows us to see that. And there are a few that I'm praying right now for both of my kids that, I am trusting and believing I am going to, that it will happen. That what I'm praying for will happen. But my other prayer is, Lord, would you make it happen while I'm still on this earth?
Can I be a witness? I know.
Yeah, I would like to be here.
Yes, and that something that that assurance, knowing that God is in control and it's His timing. And can we be peaceful in the waiting? Can we be during the time and not getting anxious and not because we love doing that reruns, and we love how the enemy wants to keep us in that place where we are just not releasing and letting go, and just having the Lord take over and celebrate and praise Him. And I was reading, just mind starts wandering when it starts doing that, just keep it simple. Just call on the name of Jesus, and He has to flee. And it's just such a great remedy for all kinds of things, for anxiousness, for the things that start welling up. Because every single day there's going to be something new that we get to go through. And we can do it alone, or we can do it with Him. And
Yeah.
so, you know, usually, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I start feeling like, okay, I just need to take a breath. And then all of a sudden going, yeah, you need to breathe in Jesus, breathe out, thank you. That's the breath you need. It's like, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. I think one of the things too, a couple of points we might want to mention is that um, still have to have boundaries. When our kids were young, it was easier. I remember in the middle of it, it didn't seem so easy, but in a lot of ways, that was much easier than it is with them as adults, and then trying to do it right, if there's a right, you know what I'm saying, with our own kids and the grandkids. But that we do have to have boundaries for how, I'm sure they're setting up boundaries of how much input they want from us, but we also have to set boundaries too. And just because I love the grandkids doesn't mean that now my life has to totally revolve around them. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's not that I want to be selfish, but I'm finding that a little difficult to navigate because I still, like you, Nancy, I still have a big life. I mean, I love what I do, and, finished my book and getting ready to do some other things. And so life is full and God is good, but then when they want, not necessarily need, I would say I will always be there for the need, but not always for the want.
Correct.
So I don't know. Do you
And
experience any of that?
I think that's perfectly okay. And it's all about communication. And it's like I've told a lot of mothers, raising young children in the midst of it, um, look at the week, on Sundays, look at your calendar coming up and see the things that everybody's going to be involved in, and make sure that everybody's on the same page, prioritizing. And just like you're talking about the wants or the needs, when you're talking with your children about what do they expect from you this week. I mean, you and I both know there's things that come up that
Sure.
were not expected, and if you're available, then you're going to be able to help. But I think communicating and just having that knowledge, whether you want to do it by the month, the week, or whatever, going, let me know how I can be of help to you this month, because I'm scheduling my things that I need to get done also. I've got some deadlines that I'm working towards. So, and I think communication, and along those same lines too, Delinda, I was thinking about when we were talking about this subject, as we continually mature and get into the last season of our life, I think it's really important for us to communicate with our children what we would desire, what we would like, because I've heard some go, it just depends on the relationship, Mom, I'll always take care of you. There'll always be a place. And then there's those that are going, you know what? You're not going to be living with me. You're going to be in a nursing home or whatever. But even towards the end of life, I think it's really smart for us to communicate with our adult children, to let them know what our desires are, even into the next step. how we want our homegoing ceremony to be. When we die, what is it that's important, that's not important? Because we want to take care of all those things so there's not going to be that friction or that discord, at the time that we're celebrating in heaven and they're down here, bickering about whatever. So I think again, as our adult children, that we have those adult conversations about even our relationships and with them, because sometimes we just assume. And
That's
you can
not a good word, right?
that is not a good word. Not when it comes to life and managing life. And so, but I think again, going back, just like you said, having that good communication and letting your family know, okay, I'm working on my book, this is my deadline, this is my launch time, this is the things that I'm going to be doing, to be promoting this, and I would love, for you to be great cheerleaders, and they might even be able to take some things off your plate and help you. So it's a
Yeah.
two-way street.
It is. It is. I think one of the other things is letting go of our expectations. I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we expect different things or for things to go a different way than what they feel or want to do, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my sister, she has such high expectations of people that she is always, I mean, which can be a good thing. You're expecting the best, right? But at the same point, not everybody's opinion of what's best is the same. So I may think I'm doing the very best, but to somebody else, that's like, that's not at all what I want. So I think too, and talking again, it obviously goes back to communication again. I think that, you know, from what you were just talking about, from what we want to happen later in life, or how we want our life to look, but also just the expectations. One of the things that I wanted, and is coming somewhat to fruition, but when my kids both started getting married, was when we were in town all together. My goal, I don't know where this came from because my family did not do this, but I just thought how wonderful it would be to have Sunday dinner together. Now, we did a lot of that when I was younger. After church, we went and had Sunday dinner. So I just thought, wouldn't it be nice just to have the family over every Sunday after church? Well, A, not everybody goes to church. So we don't have the after church part. And then now my kids, neither one have custody on, they have it on the same weekends, but certainly not every weekend. So now it's only a possibility of every other weekend. So as life changes, being flexible and managing, I said managing the expectations might be a better way of saying it, because but that might not be it. Bill is the one always telling me. He said, Delinda, they may not want to spend every other Saturday with us. As it turns out, they seem to be liking it. So that's a good thing. I'm just enjoying it while it's happening. But as time goes on, if they one or both get remarried, that's going to shift things again. So I think that being flexible, and I don't know about you, Nancy, but that can kind of be a little hard for me since I have a few control issues.
You can well, expectations. We women love to hope. We love to have for the future. It's just like when you're going on vacation. It's the planning and it's getting ready. We enjoy, doing a lot of that, and of course we enjoy the vacation. But still, it's that looking forward to it. And I think for you and myself too, it's just to enjoy where we are, because
Mm.
nothing stays the same. We're always in that transition time, and so, but just basking in the present, and when your family's all together, enjoying that time and making fun memories, and just laughing together, and just you finding out, and you can do great things, going, you know let's just talk about some fun things that we remember, we're enjoying today. And is there anything in the future that you think would be fun to do? Get some input. You may want to have a game day. You may want to, I don't know, go do something together. So I think planning is a great thing for women, especially,
Mhm.
because
True.
we want to have something to look forward to. Don't you look forward to your massage? you. It's like, you
Been too long. That is, I need to put on my calendar.
I know. And so, but I think you're absolutely right because, and we have to, go with the flow to be flexible because and I don't believe in balance because that means you're not moving, but we're always reprioritizing when life happens, then and sometimes somebody's personality was going, yes, but I had this planned and this is a blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting there going, you know what? Just put it on the shelf, put it where you want to, stick it where you want to go, and just, go with the flow. And I think our children, as they continually age, I think they appreciate us more and more because, especially if they're raising children, they know it was not easy.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That is true. And I'm I was very blessed that my dad's mom, we called her Mama Lane, that was her name, and she was just such a precious soul, and she just loved Jesus. And a lot of my faith steps came from her, and it is so wonderful to think about that legacy. And then that's what we are. We are the legacy for our grandchildren, our children and our grandchildren. And that is a prayer that's on my heart a lot. Lord, just, let me seize those opportunities. We can't just be, preaching the Bible every day, but we can live it out in how we respond to them, when we're driving the car. This is like a weird little thing. It just came to my mind. I was driving my couple of step granddaughters a few years ago when we were driving through this parking lot, and I just did what I normally do. If somebody's there, I'm going to wait for somebody to walk across, if it's in front of, whether they're on a crosswalk or not, and a couple of little things. And one of the girls said to me, Mimi, you're really kind. And it's
Oh,
like, oh, wow. Did I think just driving through a parking lot, somebody crossing the street would be noticed? So it is those everyday things that we do. Are we yelling at people as we in the highway? Okay, maybe not the best choice if somebody else is in the car. How we live our life, just that showing the love and kindness of Jesus. We don't have to say it, but there are times that we do say, by the way, the reason is because of Jesus, but
it
we
is
are that
those
legacy.
little deeds of kindness, and just like she saw that in you, she's going to remember that. And you know what? You taught her a great life lesson. And so who knows, one of the days that are coming up when she's old enough to drive or whatever, she's going to remember that. And so I think that is part of passing on to the next generation
Mhm.
um, those deeds that make Jesus smile. And just, you did it not out of anything other than just a heart of kindness and was giving somebody um, to me, that's the same thing. Like Zig Ziglar said, if you come across somebody that doesn't have a smile, give them yours. How
Yeah, I
much
know that.
does it take for us to be just that little deed of kindness, or like texting our children, just going, you know what, I'm so proud of all the things that you have done and accomplished, and I love you, and I hope you just have a great day. Just, how long does that take? And so I think that's what you're talking about, children and adult children, they still love those love messages. And they
Mhm.
love that acknowledgement just for no reason.
Yeah. And because we do have the phone and we can text, it's a lot easier. But when we didn't have that, you had to like kind of other ways, notes in lunch boxes or whatever, to do that. So I think, yeah, you're right. Just a little text message now and then can make a difference. Something a great, great friend of mine, Barb Melton, I'm going to say her name on here. She's just precious to me. We've known each other for 25, 30 years or something. And she's told me about this, and I've done it with my children. And so I'm going to just give it out to you guys. And she said, sometimes there's always stuff going on all around, and you're trying to talk to your kids or whatever. And she said, every so often, she'll just stop and she'll look right at her child. I'm going to look in because I'm as if I'm talking to you. I mean, I am talking to you, but you know what I'm saying. And she would just put her hands on their face and look right in their eyes and just say, I love you. I am so proud of you. And whatever those words that you want to say doesn't have to be a big long thing. And it's very, it, it, it does something different. I mean, it really does to actually block out everything else in the world except that moment in time when you're telling your child how much you love them.
Oh, Delinda, I'm going to give you a testimony because I used to do that when my son was just sort of acting up or going nutsy. And instead of going over and spanking him or, correcting that, I would do the same thing. I would put my hands on his face and look in his eyes and tell him that, the Lord created him and he's got so many gifts and talents and that how much I love him. And so I used to do that. And that's a great tip for these women to know when their children are acting up, instead of going over and popping them or whatever because you're so frustrated, try this technique first. And then if it doesn't work and they're still rebellious and they're still not obeying, then you can pop them. but
No,
but it
that's a
is,
great tip. Wow, I love that.
yeah. So it is, and it wasn't just when but I agree with her too. We need to do that more and more, especially looking into the eyes and
Mhm.
just acknowledging. But but I used to use that technique too, not so much for my daughter, but for my son.
And each relationship is so different. They can be raised in the same household, everything exactly the same, but the personalities are not. We're just all different. And so how we treat each one or how we relate with each person in the family and the
Mhm.
kids and parents and grandparents and all of that, and it's just trying to really just love each person for who they are, who God's created them to be, and to not maybe be so judgmental and think we know everything. Which of course we do, but
and we're not going, well, you're not the boss of me. I know. Which is,
oh yeah, don't you love that one? So
yeah.
well, we are at the top of the hour again. Nancy, thank you so much. One last thing you want to share, one last little tidbit or whatever?
Absolutely. Relationships are a gift from the Lord, and we are responsible, when He has blessed us with children, whether they're adopted, whether they're our own, whether you're an aunt, you've got a niece or a nephew, and God has put that person, that child in your life, treat it as a gift and treat it as a treasure, and that we're responsible for continuing to grow and build that relationship with them.
Absolutely. I love that. And then I'm going to just go back and copy several things you said today in really remembering how important communication is, that a lot of things can be solved if we just talk about it.
Mhm.
What are your expectations? What are their expectations? What do you love about them? Uh, would they like you to answer?
I know.
Whatever, whatever that is. So, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate your time and the fact that you would come in and join us, whether it's right now on Tuesday morning or you're watching on Friday or Saturday. Who knows? So thank you so much. Remember that life's not a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. I mean, that's the greatest gift God gave us is having a choice. That's what separates us. So use your choices wisely and go out and make a difference in the world. Bye. Love you.
Bye.
Wait 1 minute. As the mouse got away from me. Bye now.